All right, Andre, this is my third attempt. The video is just too long. Okay, let me go quicker. This is everything that'll be in the bag. This is everything you need to fly the drone. Okay, so what I do is first I get the drone out of the bag, and I open the top wings first. Okay, then the bottom wings. If you do the bottom wings first, it hits the top wings. Here's the battery, so the battery will go in there. It only goes in one way. Okay, so what I want to do is the night before, get everything set up like if I'm going to fly it. Turn it on, hook it up to the phone and everything. Make sure you have internet where you are. And so if you have to do this, before you go to Costa Rica, then do that. And then just get online and make sure it doesn't have to do any updates. Almost every time I launch the drone, the app on the phone wants to do updates. So the app on the phone is the Autel Evo Pro. Autel Explorer, I'm sorry. See if you can see it. It's the top left icon, Autel Explorer. So you download that app, yeah. Okay, so blades. 4 blades, extra blades, 6 extra blades. If there's chipping, bent, broken blades, then you have extra. 2 of the blades have a white circle on it. 2 of the motors have a white circle. So all you have to do is match the white circle to the white circle. You find where it fits in, and then it's kind of like a little spring, so you push down and rotate. It'll only rotate, it's just a little bit of rotation, and then it kind of locks into place. So it'll only go in one direction. So here's the other one with the white circle. Pop it on. Then no circle, no white circle. And then these motors don't have a white circle. So we get that. Okay. All right. Next thing is cleaning all the sensors. There's 6 on top, 2 on front, 2 in the back. There's 4. Actually, there's 2 on the bottom, and then there's 2 lights. The lights aren't as critical to clean, but if there's a fingerprint on these camera sensors, it affects, the ability to avoid obstacles. Okay, so then we remove this. You just push on the little clip there and pop it off. Right now, there's an neutral density 16 stops. And then it is polarizing. It's a PL. So, and you can start with ND2 for 8, and then this is 16. It goes all the way to 32 and 64. So you just pick the one based on how bright it is outside. The ND16 is a good one. Maybe you go up one more if it's super, super bright. If you're flying in shade, ND2 is probably fine. And so the other important thing is PL is for shiny things. Water, leaves. Leaves have all this white shine, and that's one of the things that makes video look unprofessional. So if you notice in Costa Rica, everything's going to be leaves, and if there is water, then that's why the PL. But the thing is with the PL is it has to be rotated to the right place so that you reduce the shine. So if it's rotated the wrong way, it actually doesn't do anything. So you get it all turned on, you look at the phone so you can see the camera feed, and then you rotate it. You point it at some leaves and some water, and you rotate this until you see the least amount of shine as possible. Okay, when you launch, you got to make sure the blades are extended. They don't have to be straight, it can be any way, but you don't want the blades like that. The blades get ruined. They vibrate and hit, and I don't know if they could break, but they get bent and damaged. So we just want to make sure that when we launch the drone, it's straight. Okay. The controller, this part's pretty straightforward. Extend that. Probably my only note here is you want your antennas perfectly parallel to each other and straight up and down as much as possible. Okay. So then we're going to put the phone on there. And then we're going to take the, there's only one cable that'll fit. It's the USB-C that'll plug into your phone. and then micro USB that plugs in here, not the full size USB. So that will go in right there like that. Okay, so once we got everything plugged in, we're ready to turn everything on. Batteries in, let's say sensors are cleaned. So this is the night before the flight so that we can do our pre-flight. So we're gonna activate the phone, launch the Autel Evo app. Okay, and then once that is open, then we turn on the controller. On button, 1, 2, 3. The controller will turn on. It makes a buzzing sound. It has a little fan in there for heat. So that's normal. It says powering up, and then it'll start charging your phone, and it's gonna say open Explorer to handle Starlink app, hit OK. Any prompts that it comes up, just accept. So now the controller is connected to the phone. Okay, so then now we could turn on the drone. 1, 2, 3, and it turns on. And you'll see this little motor here is gonna kick in, and it's gonna do its own quick calibration, and then it's gonna center itself. Okay, so once we have the controller connected to the phone and then the drone connected to the controller, you can see we're ready to get into the app to start our pre-flight. Actually, so for pre-flight, you look for notifications on your phone that say cannot fly, needs to update. I don't remember the exact words, but it will say something about, update needed or whatever. So make sure you have a good internet connection wherever you are. If there's not going to be internet in Costa Rica where you are, just make sure and do your pre-flight at home while you still have internet to make sure everything's up to date. So now we're going to push the camera. Self-checking. Okay, it's doing a self-check. It'll set a home point. It'll tell you when the home point is set. And then it'll give you instructions on how to launch the drone. Basically, you take the joysticks and point them diagonally inward towards each other. Down and to the left on the right controller, and the left controller down and to the right. I know that's confusing, but the instructions will explain it there. So I don't want to launch, I'm inside here. So hopefully I don't mess that up. So I'm gonna hit next, and then it's gonna tell me like how to control it. So when you go for your practice flights, go to a big empty field, no people, and make sure and take like a cardboard box or a plastic bag or something so you don't put the drone on grass or dirt, so you don't get dust into the motors or moisture if the grass is a little dewy or whatever. And then just start by flying and hovering really low and practicing left, right, forward, backward, up, down. And then as you get more confident, go a little farther and a little farther. Practice flying it away from the field, hitting the automatic go home button, just so you get a feel for how that works. Practice going up, over, like to a marker, and landing on that marker. So you want to know how to aim and how to have a good depth perception so you're aware of where the drone is. I do that in parking lots. So I'll find like a manhole or some marking on the ground, even an oil stain or whatever, and I try and go up from where I am over to that and bring it down. And then as you get more in control of the drone, then you'll higher, farther, and you practice different moves. All right, so this is saying pre-flight security check. So we're gonna go next. Before powering on the aircraft, please make sure the battery is securely installed. It is. Before takeoff, please check the propeller installation. Yep, we already did that. Okay, so now we're gonna talk about camera settings. All right, so let me come over here. There's a couple things. So this drone doesn't always shoot great video. The key is the settings. If the settings are just right, it will shoot great video. Let's see if we can get this in focus here. Will this focus? Oh wait. There we go. Okay. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go into the menu. So there's a gearbox over here. So we go over there. Okay, flight control. Novice mode is going to limit how you can fly. So what's going to happen is when you hit the gas, let's say, to go forward or any direction, it's going to slowly move and go. Okay. So once you get more comfortable with how to fly, the drone, you may want to go to outside of novice mode, and that when you give it gas, boom, instant, man. It just goes quick. Up, down, forward, backward, everything's instant. But it's turning off your collision avoidance. So the other reason to get off of novice mode is to, you're trying to fly in between some branches or something like that. And in novice mode, it'll stop. It won't let you. But in advanced mode, it'll go through, and if you hit, you hit. So that's the risk you take for getting off novice mode. Okay, so there's speed, there's standard and ludicrous. So ludicrous just lets you go top speed. It drains the battery faster, but you can get some really cool shots. That's how I got the shot flying right close to the ocean where I kissed the wave. Did that outside of novice mode in ludicrous mode. Okay, visual navigation. So here's you could turn off your obstacle avoidance. Remote control. You could do a calibration, just follow the steps. I don't do that every time, but sometimes it prompts me and says a calibration is needed. So I do that. Image transmission, I've never done anything with this. So if you want to look up on YouTube a tutorial, that's fine. Aircraft battery, it gives you ranges on when to warn you on the battery. So I have it set to what was recommended. So 15% it'll start warning you. But it also calculates how far away the drone is from the home point, and it will start to return home with enough battery. So it's not gonna, get too low and you're like a mile away and it can't fly back. It won't do that. Gimbal is another calibration thing. I don't do this every time, but when it starts to give me warning signs, I'm like, oh shoot, I need to calibrate. You can just follow those steps. Okay, so now camera settings. Let's see here. There's a little arrow on the bottom right hand of the screen. It's just a little V, like a little arrow that's pointing up. You hit that, and it's gonna pull up your settings. Okay, so right now we're in 4K, but we're in 30 frames per second. I shoot 30 frames per second because it gives me the option to slow it down a little bit more if I want to in post, down to 24 frames per second, or I can just drop some frames and keep it at the current speed. But if you wanna go full cinematic, we can change it here to the 24 frames per second. MP4 versus MOV. So MP4 is better for PC, MOV is better for Mac. But otherwise, they're the exact same quality and all that. Exposure. So exposure, we can go to manual if we want to be in full control, but just be mindful if it's in manual, while we're in the air, we may have to be making adjustments as the scene changes. If it's in auto, sometimes the clouds will cover the sun and auto will just brighten everything up. It looks really amateur. So those, it just depends on the situation, but a pro would say manual every time. And that's not wrong. It's just a lot harder. Okay, shutter priority. Oh geez, I don't know. Or aperture priority. Oh, I do shutter priority. Gosh, I'm sorry, I don't have, nothing's coming to mind right now on shutter priority. Okay, wait. Oh, aperture priority. Aperture priority so you can choose your f-stop. F-stop, I always like it open as much as possible, but the optimal for best camera quality is double the most open. So f2.8 is the most open, so double that is gonna be around 6. So we have 5.6 right there. 5.6 is gonna be the best quality video you can get. That's just a general standard in cinematography. Just to back up on what I said earlier, you have to have it in aperture priority mode to be able to choose your f-stop. So aperture priority mode and then f5.6. So then once you have it set to f5.6, the next thing is the frame rate. It's not letting me set the frame rate. Ugh, is it because I don't have it in manual mode? Oh gosh, it's not aperture priority or shutter priority. Gosh, it's been a while. Put it in manual mode, then f-stop is 5.6, and then your shutter, okay, so here's where the magic happens. Your shutter normally should be double your frame rate, so 24 frames per second, so 48 frames, you know, anywhere around there. But with the drone, when you have that much motion blur, it does a ton of compression to that motion blur and it gets really blocky and it looks bad. It looks bad. On this specific drone, it looks bad. So what I do is I put the shutter to 1/20th of a second, a lot crisper. And that extra crispiness, it compresses so much better on the H.265 algorithm. And then when I'm editing, I add back the motion blur that should be there. And there's a good filter in After Effects for simulated motion blur. It works great. It's really good. So that's the trick with this drone. You want to keep the f-stop at 5.6 and you want to keep your shutter at 120, even though cinematography standards are around 48 frames per second. Okay, so once your frame rate is set, there's your ISO. So your ISO, now you look through your, the camera is on, and like for me, it's really dark. I'm inside here, it's really dark. I'm at ISO 6400, that's really high. You wanna keep your ISO at 100 if possible, if not 200, if you have to, 400, and so on and so forth. But you always wanna go as low as possible on your ISO, and that's where switching out the ND filters comes in handy. So right now I got ND16. I would be putting on ND2. But outside, honestly, ND16 should be good with these settings. Maybe even ND32. So you'll see, you can swap them back and forth until you get what you want. Okay, so then there's this EV. EV looks like it's just doing auto. Okay, white balance. So it says AWB, auto white balance. It says WB, that's white balance. White balance, you want to do sunny if it's sunny, cloudy if it's cloudy. That's pretty straightforward. Everything else can be done in post, so we don't have to worry about if it's a little off, a little blue, little magenta or whatever. This has digital zoom. Don't ever want to do it. Keep it at 1. Autofocus, because there's so much to do when you're flying up in the air, I do leave it at autofocus. And I make sure that I'm flying towards an obvious focal point. If you're flying through some trees and you want it focusing on a specific tree, then manual focus is what's gonna have to happen. But autofocus generally is good. It is a lot to do to be controlling the drone, controlling, maybe adjusting your ISO, maybe, having to make that judgment call on the f-stop. So autofocus just makes it a little easier to manage. Color. So color, we want to do log. Log is raw. So the thing with log is on your screen, everything's going to look really flat and gray, but that gives you more dynamic range when editing in post. So otherwise you want to do none, because we can add, you know, nostalgic and black and white and magenta filters in post. So there's no need to, you know, do that. But yeah, log is going to get you the best quality possible. And so then the key there is, where's my histogram? Is you have to use your histogram to set your brightness and darkness, because when it looks really gray, you can't tell if it's too bright or too dark. So we'll try and find the histogram here in a little bit. Okay, so now we have style. So style, there's neutral. There's a bunch of, a couple of options here anyway. I think, oh gosh, let's just stay with standard, 0, 0, 0. There's one that's slightly better, but the difference is nominal. It has to do with the crispness of the image. And so neutral is going to be the safe bet on that one. And then here we go to PIV interval. This is when you're doing, you could do hyperlapses when you're flying, kind of like a time lapse. It takes a picture every 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 30 seconds, 60 seconds. 10 to 60 seconds isn't even worth it. So if you're going to do a flying time lapse, they call it PIV interval. 5 seconds is going to be your best bet. If I could, I would do 2 seconds or even 3 seconds or something like that. But 5 seconds is going to be the only thing that's worth doing. Otherwise, by the time your battery runs out, you have like a 3-second video, and that's, you know, not worth it. Okay, so once the up arrow is pressed here, you're scrolling left and right to see all those settings I just talked about. There's one more, it's a little camera, and that pulls up all of these. And also here's where we're gonna get our histogram. Okay, so I turn on the histogram, and the thing with the histogram is it's really little right there. You wanna make sure all of your white mass is in the center as much as possible. That's gonna be a properly exposed image. So you don't wanna have it too far to the left, that's too dark. You don't wanna have it too far to the right, that's too bright. Too far to the left, it means your blacks are crushed. That means there's no color information in there. And too far to the right means your whites are blown. Again, no color information there. So you wanna keep those centered, and you keep those centered by going to manual mode, f-stop. So you might have to, you know, make a sacrifice and not have it at the f5.6 and have it lower so you're letting more light in. And then your shutter speed, you might have to make that sacrifice and go to a lower shutter speed. I'm at 1/50th, 1/30th right there. And then ISO. I'm gonna make a sacrifice and go to ISO 1600. And now you could see for this indoor environment, it's exposing a lot better. Of course, first you wanna swap your ND filter. If it looks too dark on this screen, first put a different ND filter with a smaller number. ND2, ND4, ND8, ND16. This is ND16 now. So once you have your ND, then you go to f-stop. Keep your f-stop at 5.6 if possible. And then your shutter, keep it at 120 if possible. And then your ISO, keep it at 100 if possible, if not 200. Yeah, basically in cinematography, they never change the settings. What they do inside the studio is they change the lighting so that they're always filming at the optimal settings. Outside, you can't change your lighting, so you have to make those judgment calls and sacrifices on the settings. All right, okay, so now let's talk about shutting the drone down. So you fly, it flies up, fly around. Oh, when you're flying, there's the big red button. So you hit record.
Start recording.
And then fly, fly, fly. and then stop recording. The micro SD card is so huge, you could film for hours, and the drone can only fly technically 45 minutes at a time. I think it's 46 minutes, but you know, at 15% it starts warning you. So usually 25 to 35 minutes is the total flight. So you'll never run out of space because you got 2 batteries, and then you got to go home and charge again. So you can just keep everything on your micro SD card and make a copy if you have time. But if you don't have time, you will never fill up the card in the amount of time that you're there. Okay, to land the drone, you just put the down arrow down, down, down. It'll hover, hover, hover. You know, make sure you're in a good flat spot. And just keep pushing down, and eventually it'll just slowly come down and land. You could also catch it. Just make sure you don't get your hands into the blades. It hurts really bad. It will make you bleed. I know that from experience. Once the drone is landed, the first thing I do is I go up to the drone, hold press. 1, 2, 3. The drone is off. Once the drone is off, I go to the controller. Controller, 1, 2, 3. Those are both off now. Now I can worry about my phone. So, you know, if you're gonna fly again, you can just flick your phone off, walk around, start the whole process over to launch. If you're gonna fly like 20 feet from where you are, you don't have to turn anything off. You just walk it over the next launch pad. I don't know if you saw in Costa Rica, I carried a plastic tarp. They sell launch pads. They're way too expensive. I just, you know, a trash bag, a plastic tarp, you know, a cardboard box won't be easy to travel with. But I'll try and find the launch pad if I still have it. They tend to get moldy. So I throw them away and just find another piece of plastic for next time. But if I find it, I'll put it in the package and send it. Okay, so once that's all done, just unplug everything. And now let's go through how to put it back in the bag. Which, when you get it out of the bag, you'll see how it's stored. So I guess this part's not a big deal. Take the phone out, fold everything down. These antennas are really flimsy, so I always worry a little that it'll break. Okay, blades, same as they came on. Push down, rotate like a few millimeters, it's not very much, and then those come off. If these are not secured, when you go to launch, the blade will just fly off. I don't think it hurts anything too much, but you know, it makes the drone, if one of these falls off, it makes the drone lean over on the side that doesn't have a blade. I've had 2 blades pop off on me, and it went boom, and it hit really hard. So we definitely want to avoid that. Okay, bottom legs first. Boom. Actually, sorry, before the legs, the protective cover here. So this is always a little tricky because it's so wobbly. I'm gonna try and get it just right, get it into position. And then, I don't think you were able to see that, I'm sorry, but it's not the easiest thing in the world to do, but just gentle. Okay, when you're ready to unload, the micro SD slot is right here. Pop that open. Oh no, that's to do updates to the drone. So then the micro SD slot will be on the other side. It's USB-C. Yep, it's USB-C. And the instructions on the app will walk you through if that needs to happen. I haven't had to do that in a while. Most updates are just through the phone, from the phone while the phone is connected to the controller. And then it sends the update from the phone to the controller. And then last time it sent the update from the controller to the drone wirelessly. Okay. All right, so that's in there like that. So now we do the bottom legs first. Top legs. Okay, that's good. We keep the battery in there. That is how it's stored. That's the way that 2 batteries fit in this carrying case. Okay, so the drone is gonna go like that. Hopefully you're able to see. There's a little separator in this bag, so the battery will go in one of the smaller of the 2 separators, and the controller will go in the other one. just keep an eye out for like how it will fit best without putting pressure on the joysticks on the controller. Okay, once that's in there, these are extra cables for different types of phones. It does not have a cable for an iPhone. So it has for Android, and it has for the old style phones that have the micro USB. I don't know who would have that. And then this cable is for charging the controller. This cable charges into the brick, plugs into the brick. And then this part here plugs into the controller, and that's how you charge it. So you can charge the controller and the battery at the same time. On a DJI, you cannot. Okay, so once that's in there, all these little cables, I put them up here. Sorry, I'm not doing this very gracefully, but just want to make sure the cables aren't under any pressure or anything. Okay, so there's a thin pocket on this side, the side that's away from the flap, and that is perfect for these ND filters. I was keeping these ND filters in this bigger pocket here, but I have to put other stuff in here, and it was scratching up the case. So instead I just put it back here. So that's where your ND filters will be. This little one, I do put it in the front here. I guess the front looks kind of like the back. And then the blades go in here. And then these blades are just free floating, but they also go in here right on top. Okay, so the last thing that's left. There is an adapter in the bag. So for the micro SD to the SD size, so that also goes in the little top pocket here. Okay, and then charging brick. So the charging brick just goes in one of the side pockets. And then the cable goes in the other side pocket. It's amazing, all of this stuff fits in this little bag. But you know, the first drone I had, the box was as big as this table. It was 24 by 24, the bag. And I had to hike with that one. Now, so then this is it right here. This is everything, aside from the launching pad, this is everything that is needed to fly. And the quality is just amazing on this drone. The best quality I have seen. I believe if you keep those settings that I talked about in here, I believe that this is better than the DJI's top of the line. Except for now, DJI's coming up with a newer one, and maybe that one's better. But the same year that this one came out, the DJI one, this one I think is better quality. But either way, it's a phenomenal drone, great obstacle avoidance. It's not as good as at DJI at the AI type stuff, like if you want it to follow you while you're riding your bike, but I'm not into that stuff. You know, if you're into that stuff, you can look up YouTube videos. They have tutorials for that kind of stuff. This is not as good at that. And the obstacle avoidance, it's a little overly cautious. That's not a bad thing, but sometimes you're like, oh, this is gonna be a really great shot. And then the obstacle avoidance is like, and it backs up and you're just like, oh, the shot's ruined. But that's why you can do the ludicrous mode, the expert mode, or manually turn off the obstacle avoidance. All right, cool. Hopefully this video is helpful. I'm sorry it's long. I tried to go quickly. This is the quickest I've done this walkthrough. But I feel like it was thorough, and especially with that need for using specific settings to get the best quality out of the video, that's the critical part. And then building the skill to fly the drone. You know, I have crashed 4 drones, both in pursuit of crazy shots, but also because of lack of experience, right? So practice, practice, practice. All right, cool, man. There it is. I'll be shipping this to you Monday when the UPS office is open.